Hey, 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 it's AAA Wednesday. And if you're new here, that stands for Ask Alyssa Anything. This is my weekly Q&A session where I respond directly to questions you've left in the comments about the publishing industry and how to write a better book. It is also my weekly shout out and thank you to my amazing community of subscribers. I'm so grateful for everything that we've built. And I hope that these Q&As are just a small way to give back. 2 pieces of housekeeping before we dive into today's questions. Number 1, hit that thumbs up button before you forget for the YouTube algorithm. It really does help out my channel. And hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. As I said, we've built an amazing community of authors and we would love to have you. Okay, so let's dive into the first question today. I was wondering if you could post a video about how to make a character active versus passive. I've had trouble giving my character strong agency in the past, though I like to think I've improved on it by now. I really like this question because as a developmental editor, I am constantly evaluating character arcs, character objectives, if a character grows in their journey, if we can see a transformation by the end of the book. And something I talk about with my clients pretty often is agency, particularly when it comes to the protagonist. That's because as a reader, we're naturally going to crave seeing the protagonist work towards something, because that's what's going to make us feel connected to them. If the protagonist is just aimless and just lets things happen to them and, they're kind of just going with the flow and they don't have any type of desire or drive, then it's going to be harder to connect with them and you're going to lose a sense of plot momentum. When a character has a strong objective and we see them work toward it, that immediately creates propulsion in the narrative. And it creates intrigue because the reader is immediately oriented to that character's goal, feels connected to it, and wants to see if they achieve it or not. So when you're thinking about how to make your character, specifically your protagonist, more active versus passive, think about how they can manifest plot events for themselves. So for instance, this often happens where a character receives some type of clue or information from another character out of thin air, right? They get a call and someone tells them a secret about another character. Or in a mystery, a clue just so happens to drop on their doorstep, right? There's no agency there because it just happens to appear in the lap of the main character. They didn't have to work for anything. But we want to see that main character work. So put them to work. Is there a way in which they have to seek out that information? Maybe they have to go to their local library and sift through the old news articles, right? Or perhaps that person just calling them and telling them information, they have to seek that person out to get the information they need. These little tweaks to your plot are going to make that character feel much stronger, and it's going to make your plot feel more dynamic because rather than things just happening to the character is making things happen as well. Before we head into the next question, I wanted to let you know about a free resource I created specifically for my YouTube community. It's called my Story Self-Assessment Worksheet, and it's an easy quiz that shouldn't take you too long, but should help you see your manuscript from a different perspective and illuminate for you what's working well in it as well as what could be improved on the next draft. Downloading it is going to sign you up for my exclusive newsletter where I interview publishing industry professionals and successfully published authors. I'm telling you, they are giving some amazing advice right from the front lines, so I don't want you to miss out on any of that. If you want to go straight to the newsletter, the link is also in the description. So we have a more technical question next. Do I need Microsoft Word or a different program for querying? Can I send a PDF? Every agent has their own specifications for how to receive manuscript documents. I will say that throughout the publishing industry, Microsoft Word is the standard. I know it's kind of old-fashioned and boring and plain, but that's what everyone uses. When I was at Penguin Random House, we were sending Word documents left and right, and editors would edit manuscripts in tracked changes via Word. So if you're working in a different program, Pages, Google Docs, Scrivener, I would recommend exporting it as a doc or docx file because you're likely going to need to work in Word with your literary agent and eventually your publishing house. Now, for the purposes of querying, oftentimes you will be copying and pasting your first 10 pages or your first chapter either into an email body or into a query form of some kind. So you might not need Microsoft Word for that purpose, though if an agent does request an attachment, they will likely specify whether they want Word or if they will accept PDF. I wouldn't imagine a situation in which they wouldn't accept a Word document, so that's really your safest bet. They might accept a PDF, but they might not. So at some point, you're likely going to need to use Word. Here's another question. Would knowing more than one language help get agents or publishers' attention? If so, then does the language have to be mainstream like Spanish or have a large population for language like Hindi? It certainly can't hurt to be a bilingual author. That likely opens up opportunities for translating your work in the future, potentially tapping into a different market than the primary market that you're originally published in. But from a literary agent or a publisher's perspective, it's not a requirement by any means, and it's not likely going to move the needle one way or another in a significant way, unless the other language that you are fluent in has a strong correlation to the book. Perhaps your book is set in another country where they speak this other language and you are a native and you speak that language. That speaks to your authority to convey this setting realistically and convey these characters authentically, right? So I would say it can be a plus, but it's not necessarily a requirement. If your story is totally unrelated to the other languages that you speak, then it is an interesting fact about you that might prove helpful if and when your book gets published in international markets, but it wouldn't necessarily be an asset for the purposes of publishing your book in the US English market. But I think in any industry, being bilingual is only a positive. It's certainly not going to hurt you. We have time for one more question today. What percentage of novels a typical agent represents usually gets published? This is a tricky question, and I don't have an answer for it. That's because agents and the authors that they represent who don't get published aren't usually publicizing that information. An agent isn't going to say in their bio, 70% of my clients get book deals, or 85% or 90%, right? And they're certainly not going to say only 50% of my clients get book deals, right? But your question speaks to an aspect of the traditional publishing journey that many authors don't know about or don't realize before getting into it, which is that agents also get rejected. Getting an agent is the first step in getting your book published by a traditional publisher. And if you have your eyes on the big five, they're typically the only way to get one of those book deals, right? But just because you signed with a literary agent does not guarantee that you're going to get a book deal. Sometimes the literary agent sends out the novel and no publishers bite. In the best case, you will continue working with your agent either on that novel or on a different novel, and then you'll go back out and try again. But sometimes it just doesn't work out for whatever reason. So you do need to be aware that that is a possibility. I can't give you a statistic for how likely that is as an outcome for you, because it also does depend on the agent, right? Very high profile established agents are only going to sign on clients that they feel super confident they can sell to their network of editors. That's not to say that a less established agent can't make a major book deal. I've seen it happen, and there are many reasons why you might choose a newer agent in their career. But at the same time, you have to be aware that they aren't going to have as many built up connections. They might be willing to take more chances with clients because they're still building up their portfolio. And at the end of the day, no matter what agent you sign with, the top agent of your dreams or an agent who just started out, you never know if you're going to get a major book deal or no book deal at all. So much of it really just is up to circumstances and up to how the chips fall. So I know that was a non-answer to your question, but I hope it helped you understand all the dynamics. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted a question today. And if you have a question, drop it in the comments here and it will be added to my queue. Before you head out, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button for the YouTube algorithm. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and don't forget to grab your free story self-assessment worksheet and check out my newsletter in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and happy writing.